Despite the Hallmark cliches, holiday lore isn't all flying reindeer and jolly gift-making elves. Some legends are eerie, spine-tingling, and even downright terrifying. Today, we're toasting the season with a few spooky tales. Welcome to Shadowland, everybody.
Welcome.
This is a podcast that shines a spotlight on stories of the supernatural, mysterious, eerie, and unexplained. Stuff like telepathy,
Mermaids,
shadow people,
human-pig hybrids,
contemporary dinosaurs,
remote seeing,
echoes from the past,
alien probes,
psychic abilities,
sex magic,
dreams,
alien implants,
Bermuda Triangle, all that stuff.
skinwalkers, all that stuff, and more.
And more, for sure. So I'm Christina Callery.
And I'm Seth Jablon.
And today we're doing a special holiday episode.
That's right. Which is...
Scary Christmas.
Scary Christmas. That's good. I like Scary Christmas. Spooky Christmas. I think it's mythological Christmas. Something like that.
Mine isn't, but...
Oh, okay. Okay, mine's mythological.
But it's scary.
Okay, scary. Scary Christmas. Scary holidays. Cool. So, do you want to go first? I think I went first last time, didn't I?
I don't think I went first.
Oh, you did?
But I can totally go first, though.
Okay. Well, whatever you want. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll do it. Okay. So I have two stories to share, and they are both in the tradition of Christmas ghost stories. I wasn't aware of this, but even before A Christmas Carol, telling ghost stories at Christmas was a thing, especially in the UK.
Oh, really?
It was kind of, you get like cozy by the hearth and, get your cider or whatever, and everybody would share ghost stories, and it would be all cool and cozy and spooky.
Huh. Okay, that's cool. I like it. I don't remember that from the Christmas story. You're talking about the movie or whatever?
I'm talking about the book.
Oh, the book, the Christmas story. Oh, okay.
Dickens.
Dickens. Okay, I thought you were talking about the classic film.
Well, but obviously.
Oh,
I watch that every year.
Okay. Okay, sorry, go on.
But even before that, there was a tradition of telling ghost stories.
Okay.
So I have two, and they are both from the New York area.
Oh, all right.
And they're real.
All right. Oh, real.
Okay.
Oh, these are like
Yes.
true Christmas ghost stories.
True Christmas ghost stories.
Love it.
Okay. So the first one is the haunting of 136 Clinton Avenue. And this story actually ran in the New York Times on December 20th, 1878. So, one evening a few weeks before Christmas in 1878, a man named Edward F. Smith, who lived with his family at 136 Clinton Avenue in Brooklyn, heard the doorbell ring. He went to open the door, but nobody was there. The same thing happened several more times that night. So, at first it's easy to assume that this is a prank, maybe some neighborhood kids, something like that. But then it started to escalate. So at the same time that they were getting these errant doorbell rings, the two rear doors of the house were kicked and rattled and banged with great rigor, is the quote. So at this point, Smith's wife and the two tenants who were living there were disturbed by all the racket and woke up. But Smith decided that it was just the wind, so they all went back to sleep. But these disturbances were just the beginning of all of this. So strange things started to happen every single night from that day on. In an attempt to get to the bottom of it all, Smith sprinkled flour and ashes in the path on the way to the front door, just to see, if anybody was like coming up to the door, and this would be like a clever way of catching them. But there were no footprints. At this point, the family called in the police, who actually spent the night in the house.
The police came over and did a slumber party?
Yeah, they had a
Okay.
slumber party. It was like, hiding out,
Sounds
waiting for the
cozy.
ghosts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a Don Knotts movie or something.
Yeah.
So the police witnessed the rappings and the door bangs for themselves, but they couldn't figure out the cause either. So the next night, they set up a trap. Numerous officers hid around the house, hoping that they were going to be able to catch the perpetrator in action. Because at this point, they're assuming, it's somebody doing it, they just can't figure out how. The doorbell rang again, like clockwork. But when Police Captain McLaughlin opened the door, there was only empty air. No one was there.
Whoa. And
Yeah,
this is at night?
this is at night.
And this is
So
like
that
leading up to Christmas, or is it? Sorry, I lost.
leading up to
Leading
Christmas,
up to.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it started a couple weeks before Christmas. So that night, a brick crashed through the dining room window. Now, this is terrifying enough on its own, but what makes it especially noteworthy is that there were numerous police officers guarding the path running beside the window. So they were out there,
Whoa.
they're guarding the path. How is somebody, getting close enough to be able to do this?
Yeah. Right. That is crazy.
And they couldn't figure it out. So the next day, a police detective came and did a thorough search of the house, ransacked everything, and could find nothing notable that might create these events that were occurring. So 3 weeks go by with all of this paranormal activity happening nightly, and then all of the disturbances suddenly came to a sudden halt. So Smith was convinced that the activity was caused by the devil, and he claimed that, quote, a long and earnest prayer had driven off the demonic activity. The police, meanwhile, were, quote, not prepared to accept the devil hypothesis, but they were ready to swear that they have heard and seen the startling demonstrations, and they are mortally certain that it is beyond all human probability that any earthly hands pulled the bell, pounded on the doors, or threw the brick through the dining room window.
Wow. Okay.
That was the quote. So one explanation circulating among locals was that it was a prior resident of the house who was haunting it because a lawyer who had lived there had committed suicide in the house. But once the news got out, we've seen this happen over and over again. Crowds started migrating.
Right. Right.
Everybody's like wanting to catch a ghost in action. Ghost
I feel like
stories
everyone
were
was doing that in the 1800s. Like if they heard about
yeah.
a ghost story, like everybody showed up.
Right. They all wanted to be in on it. And so there were all these gawkers and would-be investigators practically begging to get in and hold seances and all of that and get to the bottom of it. But Smith held them off. He declined, saying, quote, we consider ourselves perfectly able to take care of any ghost that comes along. And but that was the end of it. And today the house is valued at $3,600,000.
Oh.
So...
Clinton Avenue. What is it? Where is that? In, did you get a sense of where that was in Brooklyn? Or
No, I need to look that up.
okay, cool. So this all. So, I mean, what's interesting about it is like the police thing, right? Because this ends up in like police reports and you think
in
of
the New York
police
Times,
in the New York Times, right? Like, and you think of police, as,
yeah, the tone sounded a little tongue in cheek, like they were having some fun with the story, like they didn't quite buy into it, but it's interesting.
I mean, it's enough for these cops to, I guess maybe in the 1800s it was like, I don't know, more chillax in New York. There wasn't as much going on. Like maybe they had time to like chill out at someone's house.
Right, they had the resources. They could,
yeah,
right. Okay.
Cool. That was great.
So I have one more.
Okay.
And this is the Montauk Point Lighthouse haunting.
Ooh, love it.
Do you know about this one?
No, but I just like the
I love a lighthouse haunting.
Lighthouse in Montauk haunted. That's great.
Yeah. Okay. So the Montauk Point Lighthouse is located in the waters surrounding Long Island, New York, and it was actually commissioned by George Washington in 1796.
Wow,
So
okay.
super old.
Yep.
But since then, in addition to the public, it's been visited by a lot of different famous people. Everybody from Teddy Roosevelt to Walt Whitman have climbed the steps and visited.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but there is a legend, a ghostly legend associated with it. So on Christmas Day in around 1811, some people kind of contest the date and put it a little bit later, but in the 1800s, a ship went down in the waters of the Atlantic Ocean near the lighthouse, and only one passenger survived. It was a 17-year-old young woman, and her name was Abigail Olson. She was the sole survivor, and she was somehow able to make it to shore alive. So whether the waves washed her in, or she was able to swim, or grabbed onto something and was floated ashore, we don't know. But she was able to make it there. And all the others on the board are thought to have perished. So after she came ashore, some accounts say that she was brought up the cliff and into the lighthouse, and they tried to revive her at that point. But only a few hours later, sadly, she died from what she'd encountered. So she didn't make it. But since then, there have been many ghostly encounters reported in the lighthouse. So here are a few of them. Okay, so just in general, a lot of people claim to see her walking on the grounds outside or climbing the lighthouse steps. So there are apparitions where they see her. At other times, people have heard her voice inside the lighthouse, kind of echoing through the hallways, which gives me chills. Lighthouse staff members have witnessed furniture being moved around in the middle of the night, along with mysterious noises. And there is a lighthouse historian named Henry Osmers, and he claims to have had 3 unexplained encounters with Abigail. So one day when he was climbing the lighthouse stairs, he heard the sound of what he described as a motor coming from upstairs, and he thought it was maybe from their vacuum. At first, that's what he thought it was. So he thought, okay, this is the maintenance person doing some work. And he kept climbing the stairs, but when he got to the top, nobody was there, and there was no vacuum. And then later on, he asked the maintenance guy, like, hey, were you vacuuming earlier? And he hadn't been there at all. So another time, Henry was giving a tour of the lighthouse to a group of about a dozen or so, like 10-year-old students. And he said, I was standing in the doorway talking to the chaperone, and all of a sudden we heard a scream, and we both snapped our heads. And they saw one of the boys pointing at the wall. And he said, we looked, and a picture was moving back and forth all by itself. The frame held an old newspaper clipping, and the room had windows, but both were shut tight, so it wasn't from the wind or, like a breeze blowing it back and forth. So the boy who screamed asked if he'd ever seen anything like that happen before, and Henry said no, and then, like, practically all in unison, the kids were like, cool. They actually said that.
They say cool?
Yeah.
Cool.
So the spookiest of these experiences occurred when he was working in the attic, which makes sense. So Henry said that he bent down, he was taking the lid off some boxes, and I think this is like in the archival area, and suddenly he felt somebody pull on the back of his jacket, and he turned around and nobody was there. So he figured, okay, I was just imagining it, bent back over a second time, and then there was another pull, but this time it was more forceful. And he said that freaked me out a little. I was alone up there all by myself, and so I said out loud, if that's you, Abigail, you're kind of interfering with my job.
Okay.
So then he bent down again, and she was very polite because nothing happened, and it never occurred again. And then a woman named Marge Winsky, who was a former caretaker, lived in the second floor apartment in the lighthouse since like 1987. And she said that the cellar and the attic were both creepy at night, and she didn't want to go down into the basement at night. She also had a dog, and apparently it would sometimes stop at the door and just like stare before walking away. Like it didn't want to go near the basement either.
Oh, that's creepy. I feel like pets that like get freaked out, like that's going to freak you out. Cause it's like, this like impartial creature, you know what I mean? That
right.
Like, it's the dog's imagination. Like what dog has
right
imagination of ghosts?
Right. And then obviously they haven't heard the stories. And so they're not like susceptible. Right.
Yes.
And she also said that one of the museum directors once felt a cold breeze up in the attic, like sort of rushing past him, and he got so scared that he ran downstairs terrified. But to staff members, I guess, Abigail has become kind of a catch-all explanation for the strange things that go on there. And that's the story of the Montauk Point Lighthouse haunting.
Cool. I've definitely like, I'm pretty sure I've been there, like on those grounds, if you like drive out to Montauk, but I don't know. Definitely haven't like climbed the stairs. So this is like something like a place you can go into. You can go in the lighthouse.
I guess it sounds like the public can go, like, and take a tour.
I want to do that and see if I
I do too.
find a ghost there. So what's the like the vacuum sound? I expected like the boys are gonna be like,
I know,
and there's gonna be like a vacuum movie.
I know, it's like the ghost vacuum. I mean,
ghost vacuum.
I actually wouldn't mind a ghost vacuumer haunting my house.
Yeah,
right
totally.
Now.
Yeah. That was good though. Yeah, I like that. I didn't know that one. I like how it had a sort of. It started with sort of shipwreck, right? Like the whole like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like there's probably a bunch of stories about like things that have gone down.
We should do a lighthouse.
Yeah, we should do a lighthouse one too. That'd be good.
There's one from Presque Isle too, which is out this way, that I kind of want to do.
Okay.
But I won't give it away right now.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Cool. Okay, are you ready for mine?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Right. I'm gonna do. So mine is about the Icelandic Christmas myth. And this is the Icelandic Christmas folklore. And so I'm mostly just going to like talk about the actual folklore, right? It's kind of like, like any sort of Christmas folklore where it's like more about these characters and what they do than like a particular, origin story. But it's basically, it's a lot of myths that fall into that category of, trying to scare kids into being good. Much like the German Krampus, right? German Krampus.
Yeah.
So it's actually this like very strange and varied cast of characters. They're all these mountain-dwelling trolls and monsters that come into town over several days during Christmas, or sort of leading up to Christmas and then at Christmas and right after. And so there's pranksters in the bunch who leave gifts, and there's ones that eat children who've been bad, right?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So
that's a lot worse than a lump of coal.
Yes, a lot worse. Yeah, and so the two central characters are, I probably should have looked up how to pronounce these, but so I'm going to butcher all of these names.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Grilla, and Lepaludi.
Okay.
Grilla, it's Gryla and Lepaludi. Grilla. I think that is how you say it. So Grilla and Lepaludi. So Grilla is a giantess, and she loves to make stew by cooking mischievous children in a large pot. She's supposed to be super enormous and very repulsive, and I and physical appearance and I imagine character, right? It's a pretty repulsive thing to do, to eat children. So
yeah, that says a lot about a person.
Yeah. So I guess earlier versions, there's like lots of, I think a lot of these myths were sort of told in poems and stuff like that. So there's different versions of these creatures, and so earlier versions have her walking around asking parents if they can spare any disobedient children. Which I just love, her just like walking around like bumming.
Does she have takers? Are there people that?
I guess so. I mean, if your mom's angry at you that day, you better look out. But apparently you could get her to go away by giving her food or just chasing her away. So I don't know, maybe that's not that scary. That doesn't seem that threatening. Like, can I have your children to eat? And you're just like, no, get away. And then she just goes away. I don't know. Doesn't seem too scary. But she lives in a cave with her husband, Lepaludi. Now, I guess there's not really that much written about Lepaludi because apparently he's super lazy, and mainly he just like chillaxes at home. But I guess he gets beaten a bunch and berated by his wife. By her? Yes. Okay. And I guess she actually killed and ate her first husband, Gustur, and her second husband, Boli, whom she also murdered. After the two of them actually had a bunch of children together. Grilla and Lepaludi also have their own children together, and they are called the Yule Lads. So the Yule Lads are actually these 13 children, all boys of theirs, that they're the ones who kind of show up over during the last 13 days before Christmas, starting at the 12th of December.
Mm. So I'm imagining them in a gang. Do they have like matching jackets?
Probably. I mean, they're trolls, so I don't know. Like, I mean, their fashion sense might not be that sophisticated, but so I'm going to go through all of them, and I'm going to butcher all of their names. Okay. So, Stekjarstar. His name.
Good effort.
His name is English for sheep coat clod. And so all of these lads have their own deal, right? They're all like themed, right?
Okay.
So his deal is that he harasses sheep. He also has stiff peg legs that makes it hard for him to get around. These honestly don't. I mean, with the exception of the Grilla, like, you know, stewing and eating children, they don't really sound that.
Well, it doesn't sound that scary. You could you could probably get away from him.
Yeah. So he shows up on the 12th of December and he leaves on the 25th. Okay. So the next one is Jiljager, or something like that. His name means gully gawk. And so that basically refers to the fact that he hides in gullies, waiting to sneak into cow sheds so he can steal their milk. Very specific. You're going to see a bunch of this theme reoccurring. So he shows up on the 13th and leaves on the 26th. Okay, so the next one is Stuffer. His name means stubby. So he's super short, and he likes to steal the crust out of pans. I guess that have, you know, crust left over in them. He shows up on the 14th and leaves on the 27th. So I imagine it's a Christmas. I don't know why you'd be mad if someone's
not that bad.
It doesn't sound that bad, right?
No.
Okay, the next one. I don't know. I can't even hardly tell what this word is. Puvorsiliker. And he means, this means spoon licker. So he steals and then subsequently licks wooden spoons. But even with all the spoon licking, he has malnutrition, so he's super skinny. I feel like all these people, it's like these, you know, came up with the Yule Lads just to like deflect blame from eating leftovers, right? They're all very leftovers driven.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Right.
Barnyard and leftovers.
Yes. Okay. Okay. The next one is Potakskefil, which is pot scraper. And you can probably guess he likes to steal leftovers from pots. I guess he scrapes the pots out. I mean, to be honest, he sounds kind of helpful. I mean,
right.
You know, you got a bunch of pots that you just made a Christmas feast, and you left the kitchen, and you come back, and somebody's like scraped out the pot. Like, are you really going to be mad at that? I don't know.
I wouldn't. I could use that.
Yeah, totally. He comes on the 15th and leaves the 29th. I guess probably after all the leftovers are gone. Okay, so the next one is Askasliker. And that means bowl liquor. He hides under beds waiting for someone to put down their bowls, which then he steals and subsequently licks. I get like this licking theme seems to be a whole thing too.
It's getting a little
It's getting
creepy.
A little repetitious too.
Yeah.
What'd you say? It's getting a little what?
Getting a little creepier.
Creepier, yeah. Just like all these
anything
trolls
under the bed.
Trolls
Let's
under
be
your bed
honest.
licking things.
Okay, when you were a kid, did you ever have the thing where you didn't want to stick your foot over the edge of the bed because something would come out and grab your foot?
Oh, totally. Like not under. I feel like out of the covers was okay, but definitely like
right.
Once it's
over
like
the edge.
Over the edge.
Then you're just
the
tempting
floor.
fate.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. The next one, Hiruskilir. This is door slammer. He likes to slam doors, especially during the night, waking everybody up. right? Again, I feel like
it's kind of a dick.
Kind of a dick, yeah. Or someone just like walking around the house, going to the bathroom, slam the door, and it's like, oh, it wasn't me, it was Huruskelir. Lots of deflecting blame here. I actually read, I think it was somewhere that Iceland, I guess it was Iceland. This is all like kind of like based off like Norse mythology, I think, but like they've definitely come up with their own thing. But I think they actually outlawed creating myths to scare children into behaving. I think they like made some sort of weird law or something. Okay, so the next one is Skyrgummer. So he is a skyr gobbler, and I guess skyr is a yogurt-like dish, and I guess he just likes to eat it, and that's his thing. Okay, so just a couple more.
No, it's okay.
I said I was going to go through
do this all
13.
day.
Yeah. Glugagir, he's a window peeper, and I guess he snoops around, peeping in windows looking for things to steal.
Okay.
And then there's Gatabufu.
So he just like takes whatever.
Yeah.
He'll take like
I guess just like general theft.
Okay.
The next one, Gatabufu, is doorway sniffer. And this sounds
okay.
kind of like some sort of like weird fetish or like PG-13 insult.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here, you know, like when they like, when they dub over for like television, like, get out of here, you door sniffer.
Right, we don't want to kink shame, but it's very unusual.
But I guess this is like, he's actually out there looking for leaf bread. That's like he has a big nose, and it like actually helps him find this. So I guess he's sniffing around doorways for it. Maybe they leave bread around doorways, but.
Oh, okay.
Okay, two more. Ketrukur, which means meat hook. He uses a meat hook to steal meat.
Whoa.
Who's writing these? They all sound like all these names sound like knockoffs of like 80s action figures. They're like way too on the nose. Like, okay, one more. Kurtas Skinner Cure. And this is candle stealer. And he follows children to steal their candles. And then I guess he eats the candles, which is odd. But, okay. He comes on the 24th and he leaves on the 6th of January.
Because he hangs out for a while.
I guess so.
After, yeah.
And then, so there are other Yule lads, I guess, that are more obscure. Like there's like other iterations over the years, but there's mostly like these like two camps, right? The ones that steal food and then ones that play pranks. And then there's some that just do stuff like Gullygawk, who just like hides in gullies. Okay. And then lastly, they all have a Yule cat. They have a cat that lives with them in the cave, who's huge and vicious, and he's called the Yule cat.
Okay, one cat or multiple cats?
One cat, one big old,
giant
cat. And this cat likes to eat children who don't get new clothes for Christmas.
Whoa.
Well, that seems pretty classist to me.
Yeah, very classist. Yeah.
But I think someone said that that
he should eat the children that have too many new clothes.
Yeah, really. Like eat the rich, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah. I guess this one was thought to be started by farmers who were trying to like get rid of all their wool before Christmas. I think it sounds right. I guess.
It's got like it's like an Icelandic version of like a Hallmark holiday.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So that is the Icelandic Christmas folklore and the stories of
I love it.
and Lepidus and their children.
Yeah, I actually want to learn about the others too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like definitely, like a lot of this, apparently, like I said before, comes from Norse mythology, and like there's definitely some allusions to, Krampus in there, right? Mm-hmm. But very specifically about like people were just like really interested in scaring their children into behaving in Iceland, I guess, and like I think a lot of this comes from like the 1800s. But I found some of it, I think, when I was looking for some of that, I think on our troll episode. But I think there's like, statues of them around town. I think it's something that they, I'm not sure if anyone like actually believes that there's this, character out there, but I imagine some children did at one point, and that's kind of
you'd think. I mean, it sounds like
right?
it was kind of like trying to get them to like stay in line and like not leave their dishes on the floor and finish their food and
Yeah. Or like I said, or just to deflect blame from each other. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's funny to think about like Christmas. I mean, like what you were saying about the Dickens novel, like just this idea of like a spooky Christmas, that like there's all this like scary stuff happening, right? Like I think in a lot of the German folklore, there's this sort of like yin and yang, right? There's this like, gifts and goodness happening, but also this sort of spooky stuff, right?
Right. Which kind of makes sense with the season, because it's like everything's dead, it's cold. I mean, you literally could die if you get stranded outside, but then you come indoors and it's all the celebrating and togetherness and warmth and coziness. And so, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, like Halloween used to be this sort of spiritual time, and I mean like time of like spirits, right? Mm-hmm. And that a lot of these like have that feeling to it. Like there was a time where maybe Christmas wasn't so Coca-Cola, or it was
right.
Santa, he's good and he wears a red coat and like that's it. Everything's cool. It's like a much more interesting time. Yeah.
When you think about it, though, even the Santa legend is kind of creepy.
Oh, totally.
The strange dude coming down. Yeah, he's breaking into your house in the middle of the night.
Yep. Watching over you. He sees you when you're
watching everything. Yeah, he sees everything you do. He keeps a list. And, yeah, it's pretty invasive.
Yeah, he's like in your head. He like he knows what you're thinking. Like
right.
that's kind of scary too. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, those were fun. I feel like we got some good
fun.
True ghost stories, and some like fun myths.
For sure. And if you guys have anything that you want us to cover or you want to just share with us, you can send your stories to shadowlandpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
Or you can follow us on Instagram and DM us.
Yeah, maybe we'll post some like topics on Instagram that we could, if people want to weigh in on some, because we have a very long list, right, of stuff we like to do. So
yeah, we got to narrow it down.
Yes, totally. Cool. All right. Well, I feel pretty good about our Christmas special. How about you?
I do too.
All right, cool.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays, everyone. And I guess until next time.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Shadowland Podcast is produced by Seth Jablon and Christina Callaghan. Edited by Tim Kelly. Theme music by Tim Lincoln.
Thanks, Tim.